Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to episode 137 of the Falcoholic Live. I'm your host, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin, and I am joined by a very special guest this evening, Falcons fullback and special teams ace, Keith Smith. He is at K_Smith31 on Twitter. Keith, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing tonight?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm alive and healthy. Got no complaints, man. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good. Happy to have you on. We were just saying it's nice weather for a change, so that's always nice as well. Um,
Yeah,
Also with us
absolutely.
tonight, Evan Birchfield at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. Evan, how are you this evening?
I'm great. Glad to have another. Last week we had Foy Lucan. We got another great guest in Keith Smith, um, Falcons fullback, and just appreciative of him coming on and spend some time with us. And if you have any questions for him, throw it in the chat and Kevin will read it.
Yeah, guys, definitely throw any questions you have in there. I know Keith is busy tonight, so we appreciate him taking just a few minutes here to answer some questions and just hang out with us. So we do appreciate that, Keith. But yeah, just to start off, I know you actually played linebacker in college and then transitioned to fullback in the NFL after several years. Do you still, do you have any, fantasies of going back to linebacker, or are you like full on offense fullback now?
Man, that linebacker ambition will never leave my system. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So, I always itch to get on that side of the ball here and there. It's kind of what I grew up in, all I kind of knew up until my second year in the league. So, that'll never leave me. But I'll say that I'm fortunate enough to, in the position that I play, I get to take all my frustration out on all those who prevailed in the position themselves. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So I still get my linebacker esque out on special teams.
Yeah.
So it's good to be on teams and be able to still kind of tackle guys and get after the ball a little bit
Yeah.
outside of being fullback.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. I think this might be 2 years now. I think you've led the Falcons in special teams tackles. So we can see that linebacker experience show up on special teams. Um, and like I know under Dirk Cutter, fullback wasn't a huge part of the offense. I think he actually ended up playing more snaps on special teams. So do you actually? I'm curious as to if you actually do you have a preference? Do you enjoy special teams or the fullback play more at this point?
It's man, it's real different. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's a different type of excitement. I kind of just enjoy both of them equally. The game of football is just awesome in itself, and just the opportunity to be able to play it for a living is such a great blessing. But I have fun on both aspects. Uh, kind of smacking dudes in their mouth every play on offense is it doesn't really get old when you grow up loving the hit. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So, like being able to kind of like you said, just tap into that linebackerness. I kind of bring that into the offensive side in my approach. Just kind of always wanting to be on the attack, and just kind of hit everything that's moving, and that's kind of what backers do. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
and as a fullback, it's cool. It's cool to be the fullback because when you're on the field, you're the enforcer. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Mm-hmm.
you kind of set the tone, and so that's just the mentality that I like to approach the game with. And then on special teams, like I said, my linebacker um piece just comes out full throttle. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Just having a nose for the ball, it's come natural to me, and kind of carried my career to this point. And as I mature more on the offensive side of the ball, so it's pretty cool equally.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. Evan, I don't know if you had any specific questions or not you wanted to get in.
Yeah. just overall, how has your experience been in Atlanta? Because I know you played for the Oakland, I think it was Oakland Raiders at the time. So, and then Dallas Cowboys. Like, just overall, how's the experience in Atlanta been?
It's been amazing, man. Fans are awesome, man, and just the city is beautiful. It's cheap. You know, I'm coming from California, taxes to Georgia taxes, big time saver. You know,
Mhm.
but just I'll say the biggest thing has been kind of being enveloped in the whole concept of brotherhood, and just in all the teams that I've been on, this has been one of the most teams to exemplify that. And it's no coincidence that that's been the motto, is brotherhood, because when I first got here, week one of the season, you know, guys kind of just embraced me for what it was and welcomed me with open arms. And um, just the organization as a whole, they're accommodating to your family, you as a player, and everything. So it's a blessing to be here and to play for such an awesome organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, always glad to hear that. You know, as fans, we obviously love the team, but I know that the brotherhood was a big part of the team's culture going forward. And I do, you
Right.
know, obviously we'll see. Oops, hold on, got people trying to come in. Yeah, obviously, you know, we've got a new regime coming in with both Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot. Have you had a chance to talk to those guys yet? Are you excited about anything in particular about Arthur Smith's offense coming over from Tennessee?
Um, yeah, I actually got to meet a lot of them last week, and I got to meet Uncle Art last week and just kind of chop it up with him a little bit. And dude, uh, Henry had 2,000 yards. You know,
Hmm.
when you got a guy coming from a system like that, that means you're gonna run the ball. And as a fullback, that's what you love to hear, and just to be able to be a part of it and learn these new schemes and whatnot. I'm excited for the future, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know we got some other folks in here. Uh, Eric, Will, did you guys have any questions for Keith? I know he's just got a few minutes left before he's got to take off. So,
I have one question for him. You know, you've played with a interesting combination of owners in your career. You started off with Jerry Jones, and then you bounced to Mark Davis, and then now you have Arthur Blank.
Right.
Explain to the listeners or to the viewers tonight. Explain to them the dynamic in those type of owners and how playing for a guy like Jerry Jones compared to playing for a guy like Arthur Blank. I mean, it's two different personalities, two different types there.
Yeah, I've been real fortunate to be in the organizations that I've been in. You know, just when you think about the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Falcons, they're all prolific, big time, historic organizations, and just different. They're different, man. And
mm,
I didn't get much time to spend around Mark Davis as much, but Mark Davis is just a different cat in himself. I
Right.
mean,
yeah.
rocks the bowl cut, you know what I'm saying? Like just
Mm,
all that is it's just different, man. But Jerry Jones, he's all business, you know what I'm saying? He's looking for every opportunity that he can pounce on, and you see that being a Cowboy. The off the field opportunities are crazy, man. Like just being a Cowboy, the things that come your way, it's crazy. Um, but I'll say Arthur Blank has been by far the most different and most impressive, I would say, because of his compassion for people. You know, he's in everything he does, he's trying to help the people, and I think that that's important to any aspect of life, you know, in any field that you're in. I think when you have a motivation to help others within whatever you're doing, I think that that weighs way heavier than how much money you make and whatever you accomplish, man. So pretty fortunate to have played under all of those owners and organizations, but like you said, a lot different.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I know Keith is a busy man. He's got stuff to do tonight. I did want to give you an opportunity, Keith. I know you do a lot of off the field and community work. So if there's any of that stuff that you want to plug, anything that you want to mention in particular, I know you do a lot of stuff with reading projects and things like that. So
Yeah, so my foundation, Smith Effect, is formerly known as 3D Foundation. Um, it's been real slow with COVID and quarantine because I haven't been able to get out there and really be interpersonal with people. But this off season, definitely be on the lookout because I'll be having some virtual stuff going on. I just read to some kids the other day for Reading Across America Day, and just finding ways to connect with the youth especially, and just with people in general. Like I said, I'm a big advocate for uplifting others, and that's kind of what I'm here to do. My IG's handle is at beef31, so you guys can find me on there, and then it has links to all my stuff. So.
absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, Keith. Appreciate you taking that time out of your busy schedule to speak with us tonight. Obviously, if you ever want to come back on, talk a little bit more, just let us know. We'd be happy to have you on. Really appreciate you taking the time. And that Twitter handle, again, guys, for Keith is at K_Smith31. So, Keith, again, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me, man.
Yep. Have a great night, man.
All right, you too.
Yeah, guys, that was Keith Smith, busy man. I appreciate him taking the time, squeezing us in tonight. So again, thanks to Keith for that. Now that we have a moment to talk, I want to welcome in, first of all, Eric Robinson at _Eric_Robinson on Twitter. Eric, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. I mean, I've seen some better days, but I'm glad to be on and talk some football here tonight.
Yeah. Good to have you on, Eric. Appreciate you, man. Also with us tonight, the newest official member of the Falcoholic, now officially part of the crew. You lose your special guest tag, Will. He is at Will McFadden. Will, how are you doing this evening?
Ink's not dry yet, Kevin. Don't jinx anything, man.
You see, the secret that people don't know is you sign that contract in blood, So what you can never escape the Falcoholic. That's the cold truth, right? So
yeah. I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good. We're glad to have you back on and glad to have you with the site. For those that don't know, we do love Will, and we're happy to have you here for as long or as little as we can. So don't expect we'll have you for too long, but hey, yeah. We got to take advantage, while we can. But guys, well, we heard about the salary cap today, so obviously we're going to dedicate a lot of the show to that discussion. We'll also obviously be taking your questions about the cap, about free agency and the draft and all that good stuff. So if you guys have those, throw them in there. Also, guys, if you're enjoying the show, please do like and subscribe as usual. Check out the community Discord, the link to which is in the show description. And if you're interested in supporting the show on a monthly basis, you can go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Thank you guys very much for your support there. All right, so let's talk salary cap. It's the big topic of the day. The NFL set it officially at $182.5 million. So we now know exactly what number the Falcons are working with. It was a little bit under what I was expecting, but I'm curious to know what you guys think about that number. Was it about what you were expecting? Was it more or less? Where are you guys at on that one?
It was a little more than I expected.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be in the 170s. Honestly, I thought we were going to see like a historic floor when it came to that. But seeing it at roughly 183 million, it made me a little not comfortable. But I looked at it and felt like, hey, that's definitely manageable for the Falcons for what they've done to this point and what they still have on the slate for them. They only have 37 players under contract, so they're going to have. I think we all knew they were going to have to do some restructuring with a number of their key veterans. Whether the fans liked it or not, they were going to have to, modify those contracts in order to be able to even field a team this season. So again, like I said, I think right now it places them at what, like 16
14 million over, 14.19.
That's doable. That's doable, especially like I said, with the restructuring that we expect over the next week or so. And I think they're going to do enough to give them enough cap space to, maybe not be a major player in free agency, but get a couple guys here and there. But one thing I want the fans to understand is, whether we like it or not, they're gonna have to do some maneuvering with these contracts,
Right.
with Julio and Matt and possibly Jake Matthews, Grady Jarrett. They're gonna have to do it in order to have an actual team this year. Like I said, they only have 37 guys under contract. They can't even field a 2 deep right now. So they're gonna have to, roll back the sleeves a little bit.
Yeah. Will, do you have any takes there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was actually a little lower than I was expecting. When the league came out a couple weeks ago and said kind of 180 was their new minimum, I think that the hope probably from the team side was maybe it's around 190 as opposed to 183. And you saw the release of James Carpenter the other day, which was kind of the third domino that we all expected to fall, because again, looking at the numbers, that's the one that was still left on paper that made the most sense for you to save some money.
Right.
Again, like I said a couple weeks ago, what will be interesting is the order in which they do approach these restructurings, because it's one thing to just get kind of compliant with the cap and get back under the salary cap, but it's an entirely different thing to start to really kind of like work your way, back into the black and freeing up some space to actually do things. They still will need to sign their rookie class. They will need to, to Eric's point, like fill out this roster. I think the expectation still should be that it's probably going to be like a lot of veteran kind of league minimum guys, and that they will probably look first and foremost at a culture thing rather than can this guy really perform on the field. So, when I'm going to be watching kind of over the next few weeks as they approach the contract restructuring is, again, do they start with Matt and Julio? If they start with Matt and Julio, that I think will speak volumes about not only this year, but the next couple of seasons. And that would probably tell me that, yes, they are in not only their short term, but intermediate and maybe, depending on how you define long-term plans. If they kind of stay away from the Matt and Julio restructuring, and if they do go to, Deion Jones, Grady Jarrett, Jake Matthews first, in addition to, I think trades are on the table. If they can find partners who are willing to make some of those trades, if you can, free up some money, because again, this is a new regime. These guys don't have the loyalty to some of the players on this roster that Dan Quinn and Thomas Dimitroff did. If they, again, nobody wants this to happen, but I'm going to just have to throw out a name. If they think that Grady Jarrett is at the peak of his value and that his contract is something that they view as a tough decision they have to make, but they could get a second and a third round pick back for Grady Jarrett, that's probably a little expensive for Grady Jarrett, as good of a player as he is. I mean, people just are going to be valuing their draft picks really, really highly given the salary cap situation this year. That's just cheap labor that everybody's going to want to have.
Right.
But I wouldn't be shocked if we see, maybe not to the level of Grady Jarrett, but if there's a name or two that we're not talking about right now that ends up in a Rappaport tweet saying that the Chargers have agreed to a trade with the Falcons for player X. I think all things are on the table because, again, it's not just getting cap compliant. It's you've got to free up maybe 15 million below that. So that 16 million number is probably really like 31 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's important for them to figure that out. And I agree, like what they do with the restructures probably tells us a little bit about what they're going to do with the, their first pick, and also, what their general consensus in terms of strategy is with the team, because, I think there are basically two paths, and, there can be various plays on these paths. Maybe they're more combined than separate, but, one would probably be a very future focused path where they try not to touch Julio and Ryan's contracts to give themselves, more flexibility next year. Mm-hmm. Or they go for more of the full on, just restructure their contracts, restructure everyone, create as much as you can this year, try to maximize that Ryan and Julio competitive window for the next 2 to 3 seasons. I think those are the two paths we could be looking at. Eric, did you have something you wanted to add there?
I pretty much, agree with everything that Will pointed out. It's not at this point for this team. It's not about just getting to that cap number. It's getting under it and just having that room for comfort a little bit. Because if you go back to the previous regime, one thing that we pointed out that we noticed that they did every offseason, they almost pretty much went into the season about roughly 5, 6, maybe 7 million. Just to have that wiggle room, because injuries can happen, anything can happen. So this team is still going to have to do some maneuvering here and there. And I agree with Will. Depending on which, they're going to do some restructuring. That is a given. But which direction they go is going to tell a lot. And I agree. I think if they start off with Julio and Matt, that's, to me, that's going to paint the picture that not only are they looking to really get a significant player to this offseason, but I think they're looking maybe at the fact that they might be able to play with these guys a couple of years, because you're maneuvering that contract to have them pretty much later down the line. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another year or two, depending on how things work out.
Yeah, because you'd be converting, some of their base salary, and again, like you can look at the numbers. It's kind of there for people, and they're not 100% accurate, but you get a good sense. The base roster or the base salary is not really kind of the issue with Matt or Julio. It is the signing bonus, which is already, because they've already come to, Matt particularly. I still have my doubts as to whether or not Julio would come to the table, because again, his money's all guaranteed basically at this point, and he, there was some kind of friction in the past with the deals getting done with him. So, he may just say like, look, I got my contract, I'm good with that. But Matt particularly, he's got a pretty big signing bonus proration already.
Yeah.
So that would be the pile that you're adding on to, which stays on the books for the remainder of his contract. So if you go and you convert his base salary to yet again another signing bonus, you're just adding on down the road. And kind of my other thought is, and there's nothing else to this except for us to kind of wallow in self-pity as a fan base, but
as we are wont to do. Yes.
It's like a really shitty year to be missing out on free agency. I mean, look around the league at the number of quality players that are having to be let go. In a normal year, you're not seeing, Emmanuel Sanders, Aaron Jones, guys like that, like hit free agency. It's just because of the financial situation. If you were one of these teams that did save up cap space over the years, kind of wisely, right now is the time to cash in your chips. And you're going to have a bigger, better free agency and a less competitive free agency, because a number of teams, a number of competitors are really sitting there trying to clear their books, let alone, actually be players in free agency.
And this is probably going to be one of the more, I guess, lack of a better term, one of the more cheaper free agencies that we've seen in a while. You're probably not going to see a ton of big money deals. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of the big names that are out there. They may get 2-3 year deals with some incentives on the back end, because again, this is unprecedented times that the league is in right now.
Right.
They didn't expect to have a floor of $183 million. So
I think we're looking at a lot of 1-year deals.
Yes,
honestly.
You could be, yeah.
I think the players are going to want that. They're going to want to hit free agency again next year when hopefully everything is back to normal.
Which is why you see guys like Levante David take a 2-year deal, because he's kind of sort of banking that he's going to be where he is in a couple of years, and he's going to look for that free agency pool to be a big splash, because he probably already knows I'm not going to get the deal that I want to covet this year because of the times that the league is in right now. So
right, yeah, because I mean, the really high end free agents are still going to get their big money deals. There's teams out there with cap space, but who's going to be suffering are the mid-range guys, the mid-tier veterans, the guys making, $3 to $7 million a year in that range. Not necessarily the high-end free agents, but the guys that are better than your veteran minimum guys significantly, but not quite the guys that are fetching, these premium contracts. They're the ones that are going to get screwed, because there's going to be a ton of these types of guys. Your Tyler Davisons, your James Carpenters, your Ricardo Allens. Like, these are the guys that are going to flood the market this year.
Guys that are in their late 20s that are not quite at that, at that point in their career where it's like, all right, it might be time for me to, to bow out. But at the same time, this is like, they're kind of banking on this time to be their big payday. And then now they see it as such as like, man, this is not.
Yeah, which is probably why we're going to see a ton of 1-year deals. Like Will was saying, I mean, these guys know that this is a cap-depressed year. They're not going to be getting their fair value. They're just not. Like, they're not going to be getting fair market value. And that's the unfortunate side effect of, the NFLPA and the owners agreeing to this lowered cap, is that these mid-tier guys are basically, a lot of them are going to be forced to take like vet minimum contracts if they want to play, because teams are going to lowball them. They're going to lowball the shit out of them, because there's going to be a million of these types of free agents on the market, way more than there would normally be, for the exact reasons that we've mentioned, right? Teams are going to have to contract. They're going to have to cut guys they'd normally probably keep at this point. And that's going to lead to the market just being flooded with these guys, while teams load up on these veteran minimum contracts, these undrafted players, and these as many draft picks as they can get their hands on. That's a good thing for teams like the Falcons, who probably are going to depend on these veteran minimum signings, or these very, minimum level signings to kind of fill out their roster. But it sucks for the players, because they're not getting their fair market value this year. So that's another reason they're going to just take these 1-year deals and hope to cash in next year when the cap is back to a better place.
Do you guys think, is there a team out there, because you've got me thinking, I do agree that middle tier is going to grow. In a normal free agency, like you said, like the top tier guys are going to get what they get. And I even am hesitant a little bit to fully buy into that, because again, we don't know what teams are really truly able to offer. But let's say, the teams that do have cap space, is it smarter for those teams to, pay what normally they would pay a top tier free agent to bring in maybe one, maybe two of those guys if they've got the space? Or is it smarter, given that the kind of middle tier group of guys is probably more talent rich than it has been in recent memory, given, the scenarios? Do you think it's smarter for them to maybe sign like 5 or 6 of those mid-tier guys? And is there a team in the league right now that could substantially kind of change their outlook for 2021 by signing maybe 5 or 6 guys to the level of maybe like Ricardo Allen type guys? Do you guys know if they're, like, off the top of your head, could you think of a team that is like the Detroit Lions?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, like
the Patriots could one team really like automatically jump into the discussion with 6 new additions of above average to average, like, players.
Right.
I think like they'll a Jets move.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think like these teams that have a bunch of cap space, like the Jaguars have 73 million, Jets have 69, Patriots have 68. So like these teams obviously the Patriots are kind of an exception. Colts have a lot too, so I mean, I think the Colts obviously will be a big time player because they're a contender before adding all these
Yep.
pieces. But like, yeah, I mean, I think teams like the Jaguars and Jets are going to be more attractive than they normally would be because they're one of the few teams that have this premium space. They can offer these mid-tier guys their fair market value, whereas a lot of teams will not be able to. You know, we're talking about what 10 teams that are over the cap right now out of 32. And a lot of teams that are in the single digits in terms of millions of cap space available. The Falcons are kind of in a uniquely bad position because they only have 39 players under contract, which is by far the fewest of any NFL team. I think the next closest is like 48. So the Falcons are in a uniquely bad situation, but
no obvious cuts left.
No,
like there aren't any good savings left.
I think because of the way the year is right now, a team like the Jaguars, I think they have an opportunity to expedite their rebuilding process a little bit. You know, they're a one-win team from last year, but you know, you're going into the offseason with $73 million in cap space. Not only that, but they have 11 draft picks, including the first overall pick.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for them. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I wouldn't be surprised if a team like the Jags take advantage of having an incredible amount of cap space with cheaper deals and 11 draft picks. And now you got a team that's, you know, on the cusp of making the playoffs in a couple years because of this prime opportunity for them.
Yeah, and like a new head coach. So you kind of like the deck is stacked a little bit for him to, again, maybe not like vault into contender status, but at least reshape the roster in his fashion. And for as bad as like Jacksonville's record has been, James Robinson, really good get as an undrafted player. Their defense does have some individual talent. They've got some receivers down there. I mean, it's not as threadbare a team as normally like some last place teams in the league are. If they're able, you know, if Trevor Lawrence is Andrew Luck, they could kind of do what the Miami Dolphins have done. And I wouldn't be shocked if next year, you know, they are 8-8. And then the year after that, if they are kind of in the mix for contention.
Even if you're a free agent this offseason, do they not look more attractive than normal 1-in-15 teams do? I mean, they got a ton of money, they got a lot of draft picks.
I mean, if Urban Meyer's first pitch is we're going to draft Trevor Lawrence, come play with us, like yes, then they're very. But that would be instantly. If I'm a free agent, I would say, all right, you're on the clock. Who are you picking? Would be my first question, because the quarterback position ultimately, you know, it's an 11-man game or whatever, but the quarterback position by and large defines the fate of the team. I would need to know what you're doing there. And if it's Trevor Lawrence, you know, again, that's about these guys read and hear all the same stuff that we read and hear.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to go and play with that guy?
Right. But that was a great question you asked, Will, because I think like we were pointing out, this is a different year. This is a different time for the league, and I think there are a handful of teams right now that are at a great advantage. Like we mentioned, the Jags, the Jets having 60-something million, some odd million. They had the number 2 overall pick. They have an opportunity to kind of expedite their rebuilding process as well. I think the Colts are in a very good position right now.
Yeah.
$46 million in cap space. You traded for Carson Wentz. Essentially, we look at that team from last year. They were literally better quarterback play away from making a playoff run. Now maybe they can get that with Carson Wentz, who has a coach like Frank Reich, who has coached him before and is familiar with him. They're in a great position right now. So so there are a couple teams that can utilize these unprecedented times right now, and they can vault themselves because of this offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like the thing again that I'll be watching is I think the smart teams will kind of, it's something we talk a lot about with the draft, is kind of like it's a crapshoot, so you might as well have you know, a lot of arrows in the quiver. But yeah, free agency is a little bit different because there's a proven track record. But I think, you know, as recently as somebody like Shaq Barrett, it just like fit in the scheme and different things like that. take a chance on some of these guys. I think we'll see some of the smarter teams in the league. If you can elevate the floor of your entire roster by adding, again, 5-6 of these middle tier guys who are slight upgrades over maybe some of the people that you have on your roster. And then those guys become depth, or maybe the guys that you're adding become depth. I think that it would not shock me if a couple teams take that approach. And then I would be really curious to see how the 2021 season plays out for those teams that maybe opted to better a number of spots, maybe even if it's only slightly, as opposed to signing one kind of well-known house, one JJ Watt or somebody like that.
Right.
Could we say a team that does that wins free agency this offseason compared to the teams that, they go for the splashy headline?
That's always the team that wins free agency.
Right.
My model for the team that wins free agency is the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles. The team that already had, the Colts would be a perfect example of this. You're in your window. Go add the guys who the league has kind of moved past. Go add the Chris Longs, a former number 2 overall pick who now you bring in kind of a supplemental role, who has been there, has seen it all. He's going to be re-energized being on kind of a contender. Bring in a Michael Bennett, bring in a Jadeveon Clowney in this kind of example, I guess, for this offseason. Go get the guys who have been around the league. There's a reason, Ndamukong Suh last year for Tampa Bay. He's long been regarded as one of the kind of most dominant interior defensive linemen, but we've kind of stopped talking about him over the past 3 or 4 years. When he was in the playoffs, you could kind of see that he was kind of taking it to a different level, his game, and really giving it all he's got, because he's at the point in his career where he recognizes how rare it really is to be in that position. And he could sense that he was on that team. So I almost feel like, and that is one of my personal beliefs that the Falcons didn't do enough of over the past couple of years. I thought they did a great job bringing guys like Adrian Claiborne, Brooks Reed, people like that, and I don't know why I just keep mentioning pass rushers in this example. But you need some of those veterans who can illustrate to your younger players, who are usually the bulk of the main core of most NFL rosters, are kind of these younger ascending players. But to have the veterans who know their role, understand their role, but can help coach behind the scenes these younger guys and impart upon them, hey, if you want to win, this is what it takes. And trust me, winning doesn't just happen. It doesn't come easily. Feel blessed that you're in a playoff hunt right now and work harder to make sure you stay in that play. The best rosters are the ones that have those players. And usually when you see teams like the Patriots over the years, like the Eagles in 2017, those are the ones that actually win free agency, are the ones that kind of make those sneaky under the radar moves. And frankly, the Saints have been really good at that over the years. And that's where I think Terry Fontenot will be a big asset here in Atlanta.
The Falcons may be at an advantage this year because of that, because they will have limited cap space where they may not be able to go out and get those young big fish, but they can bring in a number of those veterans this offseason. I think at certain positions, it will be wise for them to do such, because, they need help at pass rusher. We all know that. Now, what happens with Dante Fowler is what happens with Dante Fowler, but, they go that route to remove him from the roster. You're talking about a team that's going to depend on rookie pass rushers. So you may need that Chris Long in the fold. You may need that veteran pass rusher who may not be your 10-sack guy, but he can get 6 or 7. They can also help bring along this first round or second round pass rusher that you're bringing in.
Right.
The key positions that they need this offseason, I think they're going to have an opportunity. Getting a veteran starter opposite AJ Terrell at corner may be a smart move to go as well. And I saw a couple of names tossed out there in that aspect as well. So we'll see. They may be in a position where they may not be able to get 5 or 6, like Will pointed out.
Right.
They may be able to get 1 or 2 here.
They're going to need to get
They have to get
Mathematically,
what, like 12 or 13 just to get to 51. So
yeah. One other benefit though is, and I just thought about this, but your general manager is from the NFC with a history in kind of pro personnel acquisition. Your head coach from the AFC, and a lot of the coaching staff, has history in the AFC. So you've got both conferences kind of covered there. So there are going to be guys that Arthur Smith, remembers, played with, or played against, and he can kind of speak from that perspective. And Terry Fontenot. And now these guys, they cover the entire league, so they've got notebooks on everybody. But I think that's a unique wrinkle as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think this kind of touches on Andrew Brotherton's question, which was, do you think the position coaches, the relationships with the coaches, from previous stops are going to matter more this year? And I think that's true, because with a lot of these mid-price, mid-range veterans possibly taking 1-year deals, they're going to want to go to places where they're familiar with the staff, like where they know, oh, I played with Dean Pease, a couple of years ago, and I know that he's going to maximize my talents. So if you're going to go play somewhere for a year, you want to go somewhere where your talent's going to be maximized, where that you're going to have a chance to shine. So I do think that those relationships are going to matter more potentially this year than they would in some other years. They always matter, but yeah. I think, guys like Daquan Jones, I know people have been asking about him. That's a guy who probably deserves $5 to $6 million a year as a nose tackle. Probably not going to get it this year. But he might be willing to take a 1-year deal to come back and play with Dean Pease again, where he had one of his best seasons as a nose tackle. So, Jarrell Casey as well. Jarrell Casey, I think, is one that could very easily happen here, because Jarrell Casey had one of his best ever seasons with Dean Pease, and because of his, quote unquote down year, aka injured year with the Broncos, you can load up that contract with incentives, and those will not count against the cap this year. So Jarrell Casey is a really obvious ad for that reason. But
and even on top of that kind of insight, I like looking at it from a team perspective, given, again, we're still in a pandemic. You may not be able to bring in these players to work them out. Right. So direct familiarity with the player is going to be a massive component to this entire situation. And generally, I think what you see from first year regimes is, they want to bring in guys who are familiar with how they want to run things, because those players then become extensions of the coaching staff in the meeting rooms, in the locker room, and they're able to really kind of drill down with some of the other players on the roster. No, here's exactly, when a coach says this is what he means, or this is how this is supposed to look. So I would not be, again, because these could be a lot of 1-year deals, that actually works in the Falcons' favor, because you aren't usually bringing in those types of guys for what they do on the field. Yes, they need to perform on the field, and the expectation, and it sounds like Arthur Smith wants accountability to be a big part of his, program and culture, but you're bringing in these guys mainly for what they can do off the field and in the locker room. So I think all of those kind of create the perfect storm where, yes, if you're trying to build a short list of free agents for the Falcons to kind of bring in this offseason, absolutely, I would start with the ties that the coaching staff in place right now has to some of the available players on the open market.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is a potentially big part of it this year. And the same could be said for like Terry Fontenot. We didn't mention that earlier, but the Saints are going to be letting a lot of guys walk. They don't have a lot of space. I know everyone is like, oh, they just wiggle out of it. Yeah, they're going to wiggle out of it, but have you noticed they cut Jared Cook, they cut Emmanuel Sanders? Like, they can wiggle out of it, but that team is shedding contributors.
We're probably going to let go Janoris Jenkins.
Yeah.
Quan Alexander as well.
Yeah, they did let go Quan Alexander already. So like they're going to have to shed a lot of these players that were starters for them or key contributors. So like
there's wiggling out of it, but like in this sense, wiggling out of it is maybe keeping like one or two guys that you really didn't want to let go, but they're going to be letting go of a lot of guys that they would otherwise
I think they've
would
already
want
made that decision as far as who they are preferring to keep. It looks like Lattimore, Ramczyk are going to be those guys that are probably going to get that extension.
Ramczyk definitely should.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if they dip into their defensive line. That's been kind of a strength of theirs.
Henderson is probably
Right. I mean, like, I don't know how they convince Hendrickson to stay if they can't offer him a premium contract, but maybe they can. I don't know.
So maybe they can. I don't know. They might be able to sweet talk him a little bit, but it looks like they're already making that decision as far as who they want to let go. Because of course the big, when it comes to them, it's still depending on what Drew Brees is going to do. Because they can relieve a lot of cap space if he retires after June 1st, I believe. Like, I think the paperwork has to be filed and he has to be, officially or on his way to be retired after June 1st in order for them to relieve more cap space. Because if he does it now, I think it doubles as far as how much they save if he retires after June 1st, I believe. Maybe
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's spread out over 2 years.
Yeah. So a lot of that depends on what he does as well. So yeah, but great point with Fontenot. Fontenot may be sitting there waiting for the picking. Like, hey, all right, Henderson. It looks like Henderson is on his way out. So I mean, I got a need at edge. Let me see what I can do. I mean, they're in a not ideal situation, but I think that the type of background that Fontenot has and Arthur Smith, it allows them to be able to make the best of what they're going to do. And I feel like, with them not having great cap space, but again, Fontenot having that pro personnel background, this may be an opportunity for him to be able to bring that wizardry, that expertise that he has, and fill up the back end of this roster because they're going to need it. They still got some work to do. So.
Yeah. All right, we got a $3 donation from George Costanza, show benefactor. Thank you very much, George, for your support, man. We appreciate you. George says the first thing this coaching regime must do is change the culture from that of lead losing losers to believing that they can really win it all. A losing culture is really hard to get rid of. It doesn't matter who we draft or sign if the culture stays status quo. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the culture change is going to be a big part of the new regime, and it's going to be probably a big reason of why, Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot were chosen to lead the team in the first place, because Arthur Blank believes they can change that culture. And also welcoming in Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way. Adnan, how are you doing tonight?
Understandably very late. I'm doing well.
I guess you have a good
or a
excuse.
red vine?
Twizzler.
Okay, good.
What's up with you Twizzlers, man? Like,
Hey, bro. I mean, I just bought a pack of them, and then I'll just I was gonna say I'll just put it in my mouth, but I'm not gonna say that.
Say it slowly.
What you don't know is our ultra Patreon level is just me eating Twizzlers sensually for a half hour on camera.
Yeah, that's the tier we haven't announced yet. Stay tuned for that announcement, folks. Yeah,
that's that hashtag dating me tier.
Yep. But I know in the chat, like Kieran Welsh, I don't want to call you out in particular, but Jarrell Casey is kind of washed. He's not really. He graded out very well for PFF last year, and in 3 games he had almost as many stats as I think Tyler Davison had his entire season. Like, Jarrell Casey was not bad last year. He was just hurt. Like, he ended up on IR I think twice with a lagging injury. So
let's be. This is not a time to be picky as far as
right.
Like Will pointed out, at the very least, what you can get out of someone like Jarrell Casey is another Dean Pease on the field, another guy that's familiar with the system. I mean, you got to keep in mind they're converting to a 3-4 this year, which means guys like Grady Jarrett is going to see more time possibly at 5 tech. Same with Kaminsky. Why not have a veteran in the locker room that can help guide these guys along that's familiar with the system? So I mean, it's again, you're trying to fish for trout, and that you're doing too much, man. Like, it's just take what you have. Okay.
Yeah, the expectations across the board, everybody needs to kind of lower them a little bit as it comes to free agency. Now, next year, if they play their cards right this year, next year should be a little bit more of an open season for them. But
it really depends.
This year is stay patient time.
Casey would be a solid signing though, especially when you just want him in a backup role, but also help guide along those young five techs that are surrounding him. Like I wouldn't mind that signing at all. That wouldn't kill him.
No, I think that's a smart one. Yeah.
We could always go balls to the wall and get Kenny Galladay.
Look, when you can sign, a third wide receiver for premium money, you have to do it. Okay.
But why would you do that when you could just draft Jamar Chase at 4?
There you go. That's what I like.
We can do both. We can run
okay.
five wide.
Yeah, 5 wide. You thought the Cardinals were going to be the first team to do that? Yeah, forget that. We're signing Kenny Galladay, drafting Jamar Chase 5 wide, baby, all day. Arthur Smith.
I'd like to see a team line up 5 DBs to match up with those guys.
It would be interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment. We are being sarcastic with this, but that would be interesting to see a team actually try to defend that particular alignment. So now there would be no running game, but we didn't have a running game last year either. So who cares?
Any pass blocking either. But hey, whatever.
Hey, when you got 5 receivers that good, Eric, you don't need to block. Okay. Did you see that? Who posted that picture on Twitter the other day of I think it was like Texas Tech or something. And they lined up, or maybe it was TCU, and they lined up in the spread with the offensive linemen 3 yards apart. Yeah. Yeah. It's the natural evolution, Eric, okay? The spread offensive line. So
yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Just load it up, Anything would be better than Dirk Cutter last year. So
2021, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Why not?
Hey, it could be worse.
All right.
Yep. At least it would be innovative. So I don't know if it would be innovative for the right reasons, but it would be innovative. So, but yeah, I guess to me, maybe the next thing we should talk about is, now that we know the cap number for this year and know what we're working with, do we think it is what is the decision that we personally think they should make? Either clearing a bunch of space to try to be aggressive in free agency this year, win with Ryan and Julio, basically keep them for the next year or two at minimum? Or do we think it's best to try to kind of get by this year, do minimum restructures, and just kind of focus on 2022, probably with a rookie quarterback at 4? So I'm curious to know, now that we have a firm idea of what the cap is actually going to look like, where you guys stand on that sort of debate, either a future-focused strategy or a win-now strategy. Will, it looks like you're itching to say something, so I'll let you go first.
I mean, yeah, I think there's a middle path between those two.
Thank you.
And I think on the one hand, yes, it's a great place to start to have an established quarterback who is, still, not necessarily maybe in his prime, but not over the hill by any means. And you also have not only one of the best receivers to ever play the game, who is in kind of the same situation, Matt's in age-wise, but also Calvin Ridley, one of the probably up-and-coming number ones, and at the very least, one of the top number 2s in the league. That is a really good foundation to start from. So I think the goal this offseason, if I'm in charge, is, no, you're not mortgaging the future to win right now, because the blueprint and the roster that's in place outside of a 2-year run in 2016 and 17 has not really proven to be a successful roster. But there is individual talent in place. So what you're trying to do is not strip away all of that individual talent needlessly. You need to make smart moves to free up space, and then the additions you make should be to keep that floor as high as possible. You don't want to bottom this out, because you do have talent at some of the most important positions in the league. And then at that point, you're just really hoping that the coaching is what can take them, over the top, and maybe you put together a run that people don't see coming. New cultures get players to buy in, get more out of them than previous regimes did. And then, maybe find the right combination of veterans and get them to really buy in as well. I think that should be the goal for 2021 is you don't have to strip this thing threadbare, because there's more talent on this roster than most 4-12 teams.
Oh yeah.
And I think to think that this is just a 4-12 team and needs to be a full rebuild is probably, a little bit short-sighted. So yes, there's work to be done. That being said, I don't want to mortgage the future. You should be planning, because the situation you inherit is not the situation that you have to be stuck with in the NFL. And so they should be making moves, honestly, for year 2 and year 3 right now. But they just have a situation in place where year 1 is not completely off the table either. And you just need to balance all of that. And it's a little bit of a juggling act, but I'm sure that the plan that they sold Arthur Blank on, I guarantee you that is probably what was going through his mind is, we've got Matt Ryan, we've got Julio Jones. They took us to a Super Bowl. We should have won the Super Bowl that they took us to. They're still good players. Everybody's saying that they're good players. So I don't want to forfeit 2021. I don't want them to just be gone from this roster for no reason without really any kind of last gasp from those guys. So I guarantee that they came in and said, we've got a plan for 2021. Whether or not that's the same plan for 2022 and 2023, I think is what this offseason will tell us. They don't have to be. But no, I don't think 2021 is off the books. And I think it's a little bit of a false dichotomy to say either you're going to put your money in the 2021 basket or you're building for the future. I think you can kind of walk that middle path and do both.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I'm trying to get the hottest possible takes here. So your measured, calm response, Will, it really undermines. No, I'm just kidding. But it's certainly possible. Everyone talks about, if they could do a max restructure for Ryan, a max restructure for Julio. And all. You don't have to do that. You could do a smaller restructure that doesn't necessarily hamstring your, flexibility in 2022 with these players, but it just depends on what they want to do. And we obviously don't have any insider information other than our own predictions and gut instincts about what those plans are. We talked about it earlier that whether they do these restructures to Ryan and Julio could probably tell us a lot about their intentions in the draft. And also, do they immediately go after that savings, or did they focus on some of the other players that we mentioned earlier, like Grady Jarrett and Jake Matthews, those type of guys? So yeah, I do think it's a little bit. It could be more of a measured approach, like you said, Will. So I want to get Evan. Did you have a take on whether they should go for the future, go win now, or you could take the coward's way out and say that they could do both?
It's fun.
I can see the argument for both. But just to put something, I'd say go now. You see how the NFL is. Not that Arthur Blank's that type of owner, or Rich McKay would be in his ear, trying to get him to do it. But you see coaches who are on a shorter leash than they were like a decade or more ago. It was normal for coaches to be on a team for, over 5 years. Now it's a rarity, it seems like. So I say go for it now, especially if it's your job. Like, you want to win all the time. Do it out of the gate. We've seen teams do it, maybe not to the extent of making the Super Bowl, but they should be striving for, at least a playoff berth. Because if they did that, considering everything going on, I'd consider that a success, even if it was a first-round exit. I say go for it. Swing for the fences, always.
Will pointed out how a change of culture can really swing things for a team. You go back to 2008, they were coming off that ugly year, but they had the right combination of guys in the locker room. And look what happened. They made the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So, in a situation like this, I think this team, especially from Fontenot's point of view, loading up to go win a Super Bowl right now. He's coming from a franchise that did that. It didn't necessarily work. yeah, you can say that they were in the playoffs and they made NFC Championship games, but the ultimate goal they didn't reach. And in hindsight, they put themselves in a situation right now where, like, man, they got to crawl out of a deep hole. And I wonder if Fontenot is looking at that and saying it looked great while I was there, but from the outside looking in, that plan didn't work, and I don't know if I want to execute a plan like that.
I'm sure Terry Fontenot is breathing a sigh of relief right now to not be in that situation.
Right, but also from the situation, again, they're in a unique situation because they have a top 5 pick in the draft. I think the competitiveness in both of them want to win, as well as Arthur Blank. They want to win. They want to do enough this year to, hey, you never know, man. You can go on a run, and you can make a playoff run. And again, once you're in the playoffs, it's balls to the wall at that point. Best man wins. But I think also he wants to put the team in a position where when that transition comes, when the end of the Matt Ryan era comes, I don't think he wants to hand the next in line. I don't think he wants to hand them a bad team. I think he wants to put that player in a position where they can be competitive. So that's why I'm looking at it from a standpoint like this. They may do enough to field a team this year that may be able to win some games and make a playoff run. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, like, they may still go after that quarterback right now because they want to have that transition happen. And when that transition happens, they're still a competitive team. They're still a team that, hey, they can still win 9 or 10 games in this league and make a playoff run. It's possible. So my answer to that was, I think they're going to do a little bit of both this offseason. They're going to do enough to possibly win now, but they're also not going to jeopardize the future for the next in line because they know that next in line is going to have to come soon enough.
Yeah, I'm in the same exact boat to where I would like to see restructures that make sense. So Grady Jarrett, a restructure or an extension. I would love to extend Grady Jarrett as well, soften that cap hit early on the front end. Jake Matthews, he's going to be here for the entirety of his contract. Deion Jones, restructure him. He's most likely going to be here for the entirety of his contract. Matt Ryan, I would do a partial restructure. I wouldn't do a full one to where guaranteed money is added to the back end of that contract, because that makes it a lot more difficult to take a quarterback at number 4, because now you're locked into starting Matt Ryan no matter what, more than likely, for another 2 years, and you can't hand over the reins to a quarterback at 4, a Justin Fields or a Trey Lance. And I'm still completely team quarterback at this point. I would not even touch Julio Jones's contract just because there are injury concerns there. There's a lot of guaranteed money, a lot of dead cap hit on that contract in these next couple of years. I know we love Julio Jones. We're very sentimental about him, but who knows 2 years from now what situation we're in. You don't want to be in a scenario where you have to keep Julio Jones throughout the entirety of that contract if those injuries continue piling on and if those hamstring issues continue being a thing over the course of the next couple of years. So, I mean, I would love to go the route of restructures, but not like completely, all right, max restructure everyone, make $40 million in cap space, and we'll worry about the cap when we cross that bridge later on. Fontenot came from the Saints, and the Saints manage the cap. Like, no, that shit sucks. Like, I guarantee you, if the Saints can go back in time through these past few years, yeah, they would not do that, especially if you told them the end result. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a huge optimist with this team every single year, as Eric and Kevin can attest. I didn't even completely give up on the playoff hopes for the team last year.
I remember that midseason hype. Yeah,
you held on, dude. Man,
yeah, I was holding on, but not even I'm saying that this team is gonna win a Super Bowl this year. Like, of course, anything can happen. The NFL is a one and done league when it comes to the playoffs. It's not like the NBA where you have to beat someone 4 times to go to the next round. But like, not even I'm saying, oh, hype train, we're going for it all, we're gonna win the Super Bowl this year. Like, you have to be measured in your decision making when you know your limitations. And this team has a lot of limitations and a lot of holes that I do not think you can completely cover in one off season. There are going to be some very, very weak points on this roster next season. no matter what you do. So why would you hinder yourself moving forward when you can fill those holes in the coming years?
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great point, and I actually feel very confident. I don't even think this is going out on a limb that the Falcons will have a better record in 2021, regardless of what they do this offseason. They will have a better record this upcoming season.
Oh, they were 0-7 in like one-score games. Like just regression to the mean will make sure that there's a better record.
They will be a quote unquote better team in 2021 than they were this past year. And mostly because of that little bounce back effect that comes with just changing cultures, getting a new voice in the room, getting, I think an interesting kind of parallel would be maybe like the Rams when they went from Jeff Fisher to Sean McVay, was just a different way of doing things, a different way of using the talent. Yeah, a big thing that Dirk Cutter always talked about was just kind of using players to their strengths. Now you can argue whether or not he actually kind of accomplished that, but like there's more to coach it. You have to really understand what a player can do and what they can't do, and then execute and utilize them in terrific ways. I mean, I think probably the best example of him doing that was Russell Gage in kind of the wildcat formations that they used him in. I mean, Russell Gage, I looked it up actually while we were talking, had like a 98.8 passer rating from PFF last year, which is virtually perfect.
Yes.
I think just from the coaching effect and the culture effect, they will be a better team. But kind of to Adnan's point is the goal here is to build the best team overall. And I think that is cherry picking from some of the spots on the roster that are currently in place. And, then just trying not to lose as many talented players as you can through this purge that's going to happen as you try to scale down the salary cap. The issue for Atlanta is the spots that they kind of are deficient in really good talent are some of the more expensive spots in free agency, pass rusher, cornerback, just these various, running backs, not expensive, but it's an important part. And kind of the top tier running backs, the guys that would maybe single-handedly change a unit, are going to be in a bidding war this offseason. I don't know if you necessarily need one of those top tier guys. Heck, let's go get Frank Gore. I'd be thrilled if Frank Gore ends his career as an Atlanta Falcon. That would be just like such a hilarious footnote for one of the most singularly awesome careers in NFL history to end in Atlanta. But it's not a 1 year fix. So even though I think and I'm fully confident that the Falcons will be a better team this fall, I don't know if I'm ready to do barring what Tampa Bay did, and if Tom Brady wants to come play here and you go get all of those guys, like that's not happening this offseason. So realistically, it's get to the playoffs should be the goal.
You can look at, I mean, I don't think there was a team this past season that defined the whole culture change to their advantage than the Washington football team. I mean, they look at the transition that they made from Gruden to Rivera, everything that they went through in the offseason as far as, with Dan Snyder and, hiring, their first minority, in the front office. And look what they did. They turned that into a playoff run. Now,
and they gave Tampa their toughest game in the playoffs.
Exactly, they did. And they had a losing record. We get it. The NFC East was not a great position this year, but again, it's having the right combination at the right time, clicking, and when you can, win a few games and get to the playoffs, everything is off the table at that point. It's just so I think the Falcons can do that. I think with the right coaching, with the coaching staff that they have now, the right message being preached to the players. Again, we've already pointed out they're going to have to do some work with the roster, but I think there's enough talent here with the right coaching. They can be a fringe playoff team. I honestly believe.
I just
2008 is an example of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just want to play meaningful games in November. We haven't had that in like 3 years. Every year we start out like 1-7, 0-5, 2-6.
It's really dark. Yeah.
Adnan was thinking of playoff scenarios after the Raiders win. I'm like,
hell yeah.
Bro, I was so done. But you have to look where I'm coming from. We're facing the Saints. They have Taysom Hill. We're playing them twice. So it's like, I was just assuming we're not going to lose to Taysom Hill.
3-7 game, and these 3 teams here lose over the next 3 weeks. They can be the 7th. Like, come on, man.
In my defense, the NFL was discussing adding that extra playoff spot.
Oh, he was praying like, man, please give us an extra game.
Hey, we were only like a game back of the Bears for that.
We
spot
were
too.
at that point. Yeah, it was really funny. I remember.
Yeah, and we were facing Taysom Hill twice, and it's like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I was just trying to manufacture something.
Look,
at that
you're telling me
because
there's a chance. Okay.
Yeah, Denver, like, dude, they beat 2 bad. Like, these teams are bad. Like, they're not.
The Raiders just crapped the bed completely against us, which was funny. But it was not great.
Yeah, that began their downfall at that point. Because they were they not coming off the Chiefs?
I think they were coming off beating the Chiefs, right?
No, they were coming off almost beating the Chiefs.
Oh,
they had beaten the Chiefs earlier in the year.
At home loss against the Chiefs, but I mean they played them well, so they had a lot of confidence coming into that game.
Yeah,
and then I believe the next week after the Falcons was the Jets game, right?
Yeah, where they should have lost.
Yeah, they should have lost
it.
But the Jets hit the tank button at the perfect time.
Yeah, and then they blew it. So
yeah.
All right, we got another donation from George Costanza, another $3. George, thank you so much. So he says, "Okay, time to insert the Kyle Pitts at number 4 overall rant." He says, "Thank you guys for your research and opinions." He also wants to know what Adnan is drinking tonight.
Oh, George, I disappointed you last time by not having anything, so this time I came prepared. So you guys remember that powdery drink I was talking about, the one that was orange?
Yeah.
So this is a different flavor. So this is lemon and elderberry.
Okay.
So
how's that?
completely. It's actually really good.
Okay.
It's pretty strong, but not like strong like the alcoholic drinks that you guys enjoy when the Falcons are struggling.
Yeah. Sometimes.
But strong in regard to like the flavor. So very another very, very foreign drink. So coming. Yeah, you're not gonna see stuff like this on any other show.
No, I don't remember the last time I heard of a drink being elderberry flavored. So that's pretty exotic. I agree. It sounds good.
Yeah, Kevin, that's actually the question was a great segue, and Eric's response was kind of telling as to where we're going to lead this, I guess. But I was actually about to ask because something I've been thinking about a lot lately, or the past couple of days, is Terry Fontenot saying he wants best player available. Mm-hmm. Are we sure Kyle Pitts is not the second most talented player in this draft?
I'm not sure of anything, but I mean,
are we sure
behind Mac Jones?
Yeah, no, behind Kyle Trask.
Yeah, all the Kyles. Yeah,
are we sure that he? You could debate the value, I guess, of a tight end at 4, but if Pitts is a future Hall of Famer, and they truly believe that, I mean, is that not what Terry Fontenot has said that he wants to take in every draft? It is just the best player on their board. And if they have, ex quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, whoever, as number 1, or maybe not even number 1, if they have Kyle Pitts as the number 1 player on their board, are we 100% certain that that's not the play at 4? And I'm not even arguing for that being the right pick. I just, it's something that I can't kind of shake right now based on everything that Fontenot has said, and it could all be a smokescreen, and we have no idea because we have no history with him in this role. But I mean, Kyle Pitts is really good. If he's the best player on their board when they pick at 4, I don't think that's off the table as much as it would make Eric's head explode.
It would make a lot of people's heads explode. And
it would be very, very premiere viewing of our draft party. That's for sure.
Yeah, that would definitely get the clicks flowing. So I guess I support it from that angle. But I mean, At this point, it wouldn't shock me if they take Pitts at 4, especially if 3 quarterbacks go in the top 4. You know, we don't know which quarterback they like best. It could be Justin Fields. It could be Trey Lance. It could be Zach Wilson. It could be Trevor Lawrence or no one. You know, who we aren't going to be privy to that sort of information. But if the quarterback they want is not there, I don't think they're going to just take whatever quarterback is left. Like, they're going to take their guy at 4, whoever that is. So maybe their guy is Kyle Pitts if, say, Justin Fields is gone. Maybe their guy is Penei Sewell. Maybe it's someone weird like Elijah Vera Tucker. I don't know. Rashawn Slater. It could be anybody. Like, maybe it's Caleb Farley. You know, I'm getting really in on Caleb Farley after catching up on his film. You know, he didn't play in 2020, but that dude is absurd.
Keep saying names. Just how many can you name? Keep going.
I could, you want me to keep going? Yeah. You know, Kyle Trask right now. Mac Jones at 4.
That Mac Jones hype is Mac Jones hype strain is just has left the station.
It's left the station. How many PFF mock drafts have you guys seen? No, but
no, he'll be at number 1 in at least one of those by April.
Right. I mean, the only pick I would be kind of surprised with at 4 would probably be an edge rusher, because I just don't see. If they are taking this best player available approach, I just don't see any of the edge guys like Kwity Paye or Gregory Rousseau or any of those guys as being a top 5 talent. I think Rousseau could have been if he played this year and looked, you know, like he had taken the next step. But without any tape this year, it's just, you can't really justify it. It's really not something I could be comfortable with. But, you know, I don't think it's out of the question that they take Pitts. I don't think it's out of the question they take Farley or somebody else either. But, you know, I think at that point, I'd probably rather they trade down and picked up, you know, more day 2 picks, because I think that's where the strength of this class is. I think, you know, from like pick 20 to pick 60, there's a lot of great talent. So I'd like to get some additional selections in that range, but there's no guarantee they're going to be able to find a partner. So sometimes you just have to take the best player on your board, and it could be Kyle Pitts, but I'm you know, open to other people's thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I'm not even advocating for that.
Not necessarily. I know George is. George definitely is, but yeah.
Yeah, he just could be, like, objectively, he is one of the most talented, regardless of position, players in this draft. You know, he is easily the best at his position, and maybe by the biggest margin of any position in this class. I mean, that might be safe to say that from him to the number 2 tight end, that might be the biggest jump of any position in this group. So, you know, I would just be really interested if they pick Kyle Pitts, then yeah, Terry Fontenot is dead ass serious about best player available.
Yeah,
and that will tell a lot about, you know, future drafts for the Falcons. But it's something that kind of stuck in my brain because, yeah, I mean, Kyle Pitts is really good, and if he's there, I don't agree with the value. I also agree with Adnan that we need to probably go quarterback in this first round. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw it out to the group, especially because it was prefaced by a $3 donation.
Yes, it's very important. Yes, thank you.
I'm not gonna lie. George has given us just a treasure chest of donations advocating for Kyle Pitts.
Yes,
but I could definitely see a scenario where we trade down. And if we trade down back far enough, you know, trade down to 12, 13, 14, you know, down to the Patriots, down to, you know, even down as far as Chicago, and Kyle Pitts is just tanking down the draft boards. I don't know, maybe there was a video of him wearing a gas mask on draft night or something like that, and he's just tanking down. And he's clearly the best value available, the clear best player available. That's where it's like, okay, you know, we don't need a tight end necessarily, but the value is just too much to pass up on. And we also just got an extra first rounder next season to help cover some of those holes, and an extra like day 2 pick this year. Then we can have a discussion about it. But other than that, I just can't advocate taking a tight end.
It's hard to advocate outside of a BPA sort of lens, particularly considering that, you know, there's generally a lead time on tight ends, and maybe it makes sense, like if they really are, focused more on 2022, that they're looking at Kyle Pitts as more of a future focused contributor. But I just, I think it's possible. But I think like if Justin Fields is there at 4, I mean, I don't think you should pass on Justin Fields. I think that would be a big mistake. Who knows if he will be? I mean, it seems at this point like the Jets are more focused on Zach Wilson, which I'm fine with. And then it really just depends on what Miami does. They could trade out. They could take offensive line or wide receiver or any number of things. But I think if Justin Fields is on the board at 4, you can't really pass on that. I would strongly consider Trey Lance as well. I think he's a perfect fit for Arthur Smith's system. We've had this discussion before. I'm definitely on board with that. But I wouldn't be shocked. The Falcons probably aren't going to have all these guys rated the same. And maybe it's really going to depend on what their interpretations of these guys are.
You forgot to mention Mac Jones.
Yeah, that was on purpose. Any team that drafts Mac Jones, any team that drafts Mac, he's AJ McCarron. Okay,
another winner.
He's better than AJ McCarron, but
I saw somebody basically compare him to Jake Fromm. So
yeah,
for all the Tom Brady comps, let's go with the AJ McCarron, Jake Fromm comps. But
yeah,
also
I had some Jake Fromm takes last year in the draft.
Speaking though of Mac Jones and his lack of mobility, Ryan Tannehill was the PFF's top graded runner at quarterback last year. So you gotta have somebody with a little bit of mobility, I guess, to play in Arthur Smith's system.
Yeah, I mean, hey,
former wide receiver, Ryan.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's like if he could make 30-plus-year-old Ryan Tannehill the NFL's best running quarterback. I mean, imagine what he could do with Justin Fields or Trey Lance, who are probably
imagine what he could do with Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's running for 700 yards next year.
Yeah, those Dave tweets are going to be firing away this year.
Man, yeah, Dave needs to really get the
Matt Ryan scrambling like a newborn giraffe over melted butter.
Matt is already a dual threat. All right. He doesn't need Arthur Smith to take him to the next level. That guy is already a dual threat quarterback in this league. Okay.
With 15-pound cleats that he's wearing.
Oh yeah. That's just for stability. It keeps him upright. Yeah.
The defense wants to give him those free first downs. That's on them. Okay. But Matt Ryan is a legitimate dual threat in this league. All right. I qualify him as such. That is a definite. That's why we call him Matt Vick.
Did you know? Because I was doing some research on all the quarterbacks, but coming out of high school, Trevor Lance, I guess 247's comp for him was Matt Ryan.
Oh, well,
so
there you go.
Just a little fun fact there.
Maybe if he's lucky, he can be as good as Matt Ryan.
I know, right?
I remember when Andrew Luck got the Matt Ryan comp, and then everyone was just, pretending like or acting like that was the biggest insult of all time. Oh, how dare you say he's only going to be Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan got a Chad Pennington comp when he got drafted. So,
oh God,
I am totally shocked that Matt hasn't rushed for 1,000 yards in the season. I'm completely surprised, man. Like this guy is just
he's too good from the pocket, Eric. He's too good.
He's a game breaker when he escapes that pocket, man.
Have you seen his high school film? I'll have to upload it, but it's like he's like 6'5" in high school. He's just like trucking these little kids. So it's hilarious.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was. Throwing for 3,000 and rushing for 1,000.
Yeah, he was a running quarterback in high school, man. He just ran over these little tiny kids. It was hilarious.
And got to Boston College. Executed the zone read scheme early on as a true freshman. Like that's just Matt Ryan, man. That's just who he is.
Yeah.
Now back
Great
to Kyle,
runner. Yeah.
Back to Kyle Pitts. Somebody has to sell me on drafting a tight end in the top 5 because I can't force myself to do such. I see the tight end position is getting a lot of attention and a lot of glamour that compared to years past, but I'm looking at across the league, and yes, there is a Travis Kelce, there is a George Kittle, there is a there are elite tight ends, but then there's a huge drop off after those 3 or 4 guys. So it's not like it's a position that's really changing the NFL, in my opinion. I think certain teams struck gold. But getting a guy like George Kittle in the mid rounds, they struck gold. Getting a guy like Travis Kelce, they struck gold. But I can't look at those guys as examples and say, man, I want to take this position at 5.
Well, Eric, I'll make your point for you. Is name the last tight end that you attribute to a Super Bowl champion. Like the tight end is the reason they won the Super Bowl, because Travis Kelce has Patrick Mahomes, Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady.
Right.
George Kittle, they went to the Super Bowl, they didn't win it. Noah Fant had Peyton Manning. Like all of these, Jimmy Graham, Drew Brees, all of the great tight ends kind of over the years. Tony Gonzalez never won a Super Bowl. He didn't even make a playoff game until he came to Atlanta, and he's up there as one of the greatest tight ends of all time. So it's kind of one of those things where
Antonio
is that position that valuable? You could make, there's a strong argument to be made when everything it's a closer in baseball.
Right.
When you've got all of the stuff around it, that might take you over the top because it is such a unique chess piece on your board. It can do so many different things, but building around it with that being your centerpiece hasn't necessarily proven to be the way to success if you don't already have, a generational talent, maybe throwing him the ball or supported by, other really, really good pieces. So it's probably the last piece to add, maybe not the first, but again, if your vision is 2022, 2023, and that just so happens to be the first piece to add, if it's 2023 and the Falcons have their quarterback, have their receivers, have a running back, have all this stuff, and Kyle Pitts is there, and you're looking at him as the last piece to add, this might be an entirely different conversation. Right. So you might have to put yourself in that mindset where it's maybe we're doing things a little bit backwards, but the end result is still pointing to X. We still want to have this roster in place.
When you're drafting that high, there are cornerstone positions on the roster.
I agree. I agree with that.
Tackle, corner.
Yep.
I can't put
quarterback. Quarterback.
I said that for
did you?
I can't.
Outside linebacker.
I can't put tight end in that category. Because to me, it's not that transcending position. Just because you see a guy like no offense is going to build their offense around the tight end, like Will pointed out. So why would I want to take one in the top 5?
Josh McDaniels begs to differ.
Well, yeah, it's rarely worked out, but
to me,
especially in a situation like Kyle Pitts, look at the offense that he's going to be coming into in Atlanta. Yeah, I have Julio, I have Ridley, and I'm drafting a guy in the top 5.
You're right, Eric. It would be explosive. Let's do it.
You convinced me.
I think that's a strong argument for.
What I'm saying is that there's not a situation where he's going to ever be a primary target in this offense because of the fact that he has those type of cornerstones around him. Yeah, I can't see it. So why put that in the top 5?
And
to me,
go ahead, Evan. Go ahead.
I just want to mention, to me, just because I've been doing those articles on the Falcoholic.com about the first round, like the players that were going in the first round per position, there's a lot of similarities between the tight end position and running back in terms of how much they impact the offense. Like a lot of the running backs I looked at was like Saquon Barkley. Tremendous talent, but what has he actually done? Like the Giants haven't won the Super Bowl or even been good enough to make the playoffs. Even though that's not taking anything away from Saquon Barkley, like he's phenomenal. But you can look at a lot of comparisons like that. Whereas the tight ends, as you guys were mentioning, probably the top 3 in my eyes right now: Kittle, Kelce. I can't remember which one was which, but one's a 3rd round pick, one was a 5th rounder, and then like Darren Waller, I think, was a 6th round pick, and he was like a wide receiver. Yeah, like you can make tight ends. Right. Yeah, and Kyle Pitts is going to be, he's going to be great probably. But if you're taking him that high, he has to be you have to think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Even at that point, it doesn't mean like all of a sudden, you're going to make that next step with, some positions we need to address on defense and on the offensive line and quarterback in the future. So
exactly. If they were to trade down and sit, in the early teens or trade down barely outside of the top 10 and Pitts was still on the board, I may consider in that situation. But honestly, taking a tight end in the top 5, knowing that in a year from now, Matt Ryan may be gone.
Right.
I feel like the quarterback position, stabilizing the quarterback position is way more important than getting a tight end that's probably going to be a third or fourth target on the team. Me personally, I see where you're going with it, when you're trying to confuse defenses and you're trying to attack defenses a certain way. But to me, I think even having that next in line as an heir apparent at quarterback is more important than having a guy like Kyle Pitts on the team.
Oh, it's so much more important. It's you're talking about the most important position in all of sports.
But some fans don't see
100%.
that. Some fans are like, we don't need a quarterback. We're fine. And I'm like, man, no offense, knock on wood, Matt Ryan is one ACL injury away from all this going to shit. I mean, you just don't know.
Look, man, you don't need insurance until you need it.
Right.
Like I completely agree with everything you're saying, Eric. And I think, even in yesterday, Hunter Henry is kind of a great example. He was kind of coming out of college, the next great tight end, and now is a free agent. And
Tyler Eifert.
The one, Tyler Eifert, awesome example as well. Like, I think that the strongest argument you can make for Kyle Pitts on this team, and I made it last time, outside of the 12 personnel that Arthur Smith likes to run, the defenses that the Falcons usually see are kind of these cover 2 because they need the extra safety help over both Calvin and Julio. So having somebody who could really exploit the middle of the field would probably be the final piece of the puzzle for this offense, given the outside weapons that they have. Is that enough to justify a number 4 overall pick? No. Again, like, quarterback is the most important position in any team sport ever created. So we got into all of this last week, but get a guy, let him learn, let him sit, let him learn this new scheme. Your job in year 1, barring any injury, Matt Ryan, is be in that meeting room from sunup to sundown.
Yeah.
Learn this system. Be with Arthur Smith. Be with Dave Ragone. Be with TJ Yates, and matriculate all of this into your brain so that you know it inside and out, because you're our guy moving forward. And whether that's Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, whoever, I think quarterback play is all about the situation you wind up in.
Right.
And I don't think teams do enough to go all in on rookie quarterback contracts. For as much talk as people say that they do, I don't think they do. Go all in. Surround them. And the Falcons don't even need to really do that. They have a number 1 wide receiver, and they have a number 1 wide receiver in waiting. They've got a decent offensive line. The only thing they're really missing offensively is running back, and you can get a good running back on the cheap. So
you can.
They're in a good situation. Get a quarterback, surround him.
Also, you make the point about the middle of the field, and I mean, you still have Russell Gage, who is probably going to improve and who's been a very good number 3 wide receiver last year. You also have Hayden Hurst. And, right now, I don't think I can completely justify that second round trade of Hayden Hurst, but who knows? That was in the Dirk Cutter system last year. This year with Arthur Smith, I'm expecting Hayden Hurst to make some strides. So it's not like you're completely barren at the tight end position, the way you are barren at the safety position, the way you're barren at.
Remember how we always pointed out, because everybody wanted to say that when you got a guy like Arthur Smith, that the only way his scheme was to work was if we were to have a Derrick Henry type back. And remember how we always said, like, that's not the case. No. You need that type. He doesn't need a top 5 tight end to make to make a tight end look great. He took a guy in the mid round, and Jonnu Smith was about to have a pretty decent offseason.
Austin Hooper was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah.
Austin Hooper was a 3rd-round pick.
Got paid. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we got a 4th-round comp pick for him that we then sacrificed for Felder.
I wonder who got Austin Hooper paid. Just putting that out.
Yeah.
And Eric Saubert was the best tight end on the Falcons roster, and he was undrafted. I'm just saying.
None of us are knocking Kyle Pitts. He's going to be a 1st-round pick. He's going to be a dynamic talent in the league. But with what the Falcons have and what they're going to need in the coming seasons, I don't. And we asked this question on the last show: how much better does he make them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And
it's a win now move. I mean,
right.
It's a win now move with glimpses toward the future. But again, the reasoning behind that would be we need to supercharge this offense because the defense can't do anything.
Right.
Which could be a concern. Yeah, but
that's been the last decade.
It's a win now move if the Falcons had an answer at left guard and maybe a couple pieces on defense. Then they're like, okay, you know what? Let's do it. If you're in Miami situation, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm so ready to get into the left guard conversation.
Or like Jacksonville, I think it's at 25, right? That would be pretty tasty. Get if he made it down that far, getting Lawrence and then Pitts at 25.
Pitts
because they need weapons. 25. Yeah, he won't. But if for some reason he did,
I don't think
because there's a lot of teams. I don't think so either.
I think he'll go top 10. I don't think he'll be.
I know Cincinnati needs an offensive lineman, but I would love for Kyle Pitts to end up in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. I'm sure Joe Burrow would too. But
I don't think we should discount Philly as a player.
Philly,
if they trade Zach Ertz.
Yeah, trading. I mean, they really don't have, Jalen Reagor is the number 1 receiver, but they still need some ammo out there on offense. So I think they're in the conversation. Absolutely.
That's also a great point, actually, Adnan. But the window, the prime of a tight end is relatively short. You mentioning Zach Ertz kind of.
Is it shorter? It's shorter than running back, or just as short?
No, I don't think it's shorter than a running back. I think it's slightly longer than a running back on average, but. Okay. But I think the usefulness of a tight end is maybe the premier weapon in an offense has a relatively short shelf life. Jimmy Graham at one point was the best kind of receiving tight end in the league, and that disappeared very quickly. Vernon Davis, Antonio Gates, all of those guys. There's a short window where they're amazing, and then it goes away. I'm surprised, honestly, Travis Kelce has been as productive as he's been.
Ironically, none of you guys were 1st-round picks or even top 10 picks.
Yeah, well, I did want to mention it real quick. George did drop another $3. I think we basically addressed his question about.
I was just gonna say though, I've got to hand it to George. He is the sole reason why we have had more comprehensive Kyle Pitts coverage than any other show across the entire internet.
He's willing it to happen.
He is, and hey, we have talked Kyle Pitts. We have analyzed it from every angle. The discourse on Kyle Pitts is public. It's out there. So thank you again, George, for that. He also mentioned.
Yeah, when people Google Kyle Pitts, they're just gonna have
it's gonna be this show.
Shows. The SEO of just us talking about Kyle Pitts so much is gonna put us at the top of Google at this point.
Falcoholic Live episode 137 : Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts talk.
All about Kyle.
We're gonna have one of these episodes. George is just gonna be like, all right, just talk about Kyle Pitts for an hour and a half.
Yeah. It's like George. It's like George is at the strip club right now. He's just throwing money at us.
Yeah, give me that sweet Kyle Pitts talk. Yeah.
He's eating the jukebox, and we're just playing the music that he wants us to play. That's all it is.
Yeah, same song over and over again.
Yep, but he did also mention, Dallas paying Dak. He thinks that they overpaid for an above-average quarterback. So I didn't know if you guys had any Dak Prescott takes to get out there.
I really like Dak Prescott, man.
They needed to do that.
They kind of had to, and that's just kind of how it is in the NFL, right? Like if you have a guy that you think is your franchise quarterback, you just have to give him these
Best
contracts.
option for him.
They didn't really have any other choices. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I was going to say, I honestly think, just real quick, ironically, the thing that boosted his leverage more than anything was getting hurt.
Yeah.
Because they saw what
That's
life was like
exactly
without
the
him.
Right.
I was going to make was the best case scenario for him was getting hurt and then Dallas absolutely just going in the toilet.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones saw that offense, Andy Dalton, and he said,
And Andy Dalton's not the worst quarterback. He's a former starter. He's gone through the playoffs. So
but he saw the difference. He saw the difference with having that stability in Dak and then having to, pin your hopes on a back quarterback. And I don't think he wants to go through that route again. So.
Right.
Yeah, after that first game with Andy Dalton, Jerry Jones is like, get my accountant on the phone right now.
All right. Yeah.
We're making this work.
All right, guys. Well, it is we've gone for quite a while here on these topics. I want to make sure we save some content for the rest of the offseason. So we're going to go ahead and get wrapped up here. I do want to give folks the floor if they have any final takes they want to get off though before we get out of here. Any final takes?
Not draft Kyle Pitts.
You're just begging George to keep coming at you, Eric, with this. Maybe that's a strategy.
He's relentless.
Yeah. But
Hey,
yeah, he can only handle so many Kyle Pitts, takes in one evening. But
we're not even in April yet.
Right.
We have like a month and a half until the draft.
That's true.
wait to his pro day. Oh my God, that's all I'm hearing.
Yep. Just wait.
We're gonna live stream that. I'm gonna do a move by move breakdown of Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts.
Please let him go to bad 40.
In probably like a horrible English accent, like I'm doing a nature documentary.
Oh, look at the wild Kyle Pitts. Oh, yes, as he makes his 3-cone turn. Oh, beautiful.
Oh, God, I'm so glad that you did that instead of me.
Yeah.
If he runs a sub 4.5, I'm screwed, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, if he's like 4.47, oof.
Given how much they boost the 40 times the pro days, he's going to run a 4.24.
Yeah, Eric Stokes is running a 4.24 out there, so who knows what Kyle Pitts is going to like. That's wild. That is just so wild. I can't believe that.
Straight up for Kyle Pitts. Like,
he might not be there at 4. Yeah, he might not be there at 4.
Kyle Pitts ran a sub 4.0 40 time. Trade up for him.
Right.
Trade up to 2. Take Kyle Pitts.
Urban Meyer's considering not taking Trevor Lawrence because he wants. Oh my God! All right.
Yeah, I mean, GGGS, how fast we do think Kyle Pitts is going to be? I think he is going to be in the 4.5s. I would be surprised if he's under 4.5, but he's going to be a really super athletic tight end.
I think he'll be in the 4.5.
At his pro day, at his school pro day, I would not be surprised if it's like a 4.4.
No, I think it'll be like a 4.53.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to say.
Our watches would say 4.53, but Florida's watches will say
4.35.
4.24.
Eric, what kind of watch you got? What's up?
It's a Casio.
What Amazon? What's your watch? What's your watch list, bro? Who's your watch guy?
I want him to run as slow as possible, so I'm using fucking sundial. Please. Whatever, dude. Please just run offense.
You got those titanium batteries in those watches, or what's up?
Got my, whatever a cheap watch brand is. I haven't worn a watch in forever, so I can't speak to the watch brands. But yeah.
Please run an offensive lineman time, man. I swear.
Runs like a 5 flat, and the internet just explodes. Yeah.
Oh, he ran slow. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
I
think the slowest he'll run is probably like a 4.6 something, in my opinion. But that would still be like a solid time for a tight end, obviously. But
but he endured the grind of an SEC schedule too, so I have to take that into account.
That's true.
Oh, God.
Remember when Isaac Nauta ran like a 5-second 40 and just destroyed his stock? Yeah. I didn't think he was that slow, but damn, man. That
he's not the only Georgia guy. I remember Evander Holyfield's son ran like a 4.8 40.
Yeah.
Dude, I was there. I was at that pro day. It was wild.
Did everybody just go like, oh?
Everybody looked at each other and they were like, "Did you have this?"
Yeah.
You have this time? And everybody, and then he took his shirt off, and then he was like hyping himself up, and then he like went back to the line and then ran it again. It was slower, and we were all like, "Holy shit!"
Oh, I guess it'd be like that. Yeah.
What'd you get?
Yeah.
It was not good. We were all everybody was like, do you have like a 4.7?
Is that if I like smudge my watch, maybe I could say that it was
Like
slower.
a 4.82?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah.
Christ.
It's not good.
No.
Yeah, the 40 giveth and the 40 taketh away.
It
Like,
does,
you
yeah.
can really.
Especially at a pro day.
That was the
Right.
one when the 40 time actually outdid the tape. Normally it's the other way around.
Right.
That was
Right.
the time when the 40 time was like, all right, you know what? Screw what we saw on film.
Right. It was that bad. Yeah, you're like, oh.
We're at a 4.8. We're not.
Right. Like if a running back runs like a low 4.6, it's like, okay, I can squint and like make this work. But if it's like 4.8, it's like I can't make this work.
Well,
There's some old linemen that run that.
But I'm a 3-time first team all SEC. Yeah, but you ran a 4.8 in front of scouts, dude. Like I'm good.
I think like Nick Chubb is the best example of that, where it's like, all right, is speed the most essential part of his game? No.
Right. It's not.
Yeah, like or even like James Conner. It's not like that type of running back. And I know James Conner's not been great over recent seasons, but like at his best, it's not speed that brings you to the table with him. And the cowards who run the NFL Combine put all that in Lucas Oil Stadium, and they don't let media in there. They'll do the bench press. Anybody can go watch that. Watch some dudes lift some weights, but no, 40-yard dash. They hide all that stuff away.
Exclusive. Yep.
Yeah, won't let people record on their own stopwatches with the.
I'm hearing some
lithium
repressed
batteries.
feelings right now.
Yes. We're
I'm
gonna
hearing
dive
some
deep
stuff
into that
coming out.
into the combine slander on the next show. Yeah. But, yeah, guys. Also, we got one final comment from George. $1. Thank you, George, very much for that. He says, Evan, wanted to thank you for the Kyle Pitts article. I liked it, even though you're not a believer.
Oh, yeah.
Love you guys. Yes, we love
I
you too.
told him I'd do it for him.
Yeah, yeah. Evan's a man of his word. So, but again, thank you, George. Thank you, everyone else, for tuning in. I want to remind you guys to please like and subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate that. Check out the Patreon page if you want to support the show on a monthly basis. Get access to some exclusive content. That is patreon.com/Falcoholic Live. Check out the community Discord as well. Link to which is in the show description. Before we get out of here, I want to thank my awesome co-host this evening. First of all, Eric Robinson. He is @_Eric_Robinson on Twitter. Eric, anything that you're working on? Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I just had my third mock draft released today. So go ahead and get that a look. I'm pretty sure most of you are probably going to hate it. Might as well just go ahead and say it. I took a quarterback in the first round. Sorry, too bad. But yeah, go ahead and give that a look.
Mac Jones?
Mac Jones? Yeah.
Oracle? Jones?
No, not Mac. But I will say this. I did have a trade down. They traded down and took a quarterback. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Jamie Newman?
Hey, got to get those former dog. No.
I can't take Jamie Newman. Georgia fans will crucify me, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't.
Imagine if they take Jamie Newman, they're like, fine, here's your bulldog. Like, we finally took one. Are you guys happy?
Look, I'm a man of the people. I take Trey McKitty on day 3, okay, to get that dog in here. So.
Perry trying to win Twitter.
Yeah. Resigns Todd Gurley just to win back the Georgia fans.
Oh, hell no.
I don't even think the Georgia fans. I don't even think the Georgia fans want Todd Gurley back anymore. So. But,
Finds Aaron Murray as their backup quarterback.
He's still got something in the tank. Yeah.
I guarantee you half the fan base will be calling for Matt Ryan's head after like the first interception in preseason. They will want him tarred and feathered if Aaron Murray is on the roster.
Yeah, he's an Atlanta legend.
Atlanta legend.
Hey, yeah, plug. Right
I just want to say real quick, I am a Georgia fan, but I've never understood this notion of, if you want a title, then drop Georgia players. What has Georgia won in the past 40 years to warrant that?
Damn. Get him. All right.
Jeez.
You can tweet. Speaking of, he is Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way on Twitter.
Don't
Anything
tweet
else?
me anything.
Anything else you want to get out there tonight, Adnan?
No more takes. I'm all taked out.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have the fan base just at my neck after that one. But yeah, it's a fair comment. Regarding stuff I'm working on, guys, I swear that greatest moments article is coming. I know it feels like I've been lying the past few weeks, but it's finally gonna start like tomorrow. We're doing like seedings, and people can vote on their favorite place to determine the seedings. So that article series is going to start getting rolled out in the coming days. So we finally got it past the bureaucrats at SB Nation, and we're finally gonna start it up.
Yes, definitely check that out, guys. Take part in that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also with us tonight, Director of Guest Personnel, Evan Birchfield at Director Evan. No, I'm just kidding. It's at Evan Birchfield on Twitter.
Well, maybe
Evan,
I'll change it.
Yeah, maybe director like PP or something. Evan B. Change your
Director of Talent Management.
Talent management. Yeah, you got to change your profile pic to having one of those headsets. You're on your phone. You're calling somebody. Yeah, got the sunglasses. A real agent look. Yeah.
I was gonna say we can put that through our Falcoholic Photoshop guy, but that's Evan. So Evan, make that for yourself.
I'll have to work on that for myself. You can just find me at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. Just go to falcoholic.com. A lot of awesome content. And also the Instagram. I always mean to plug the Instagram and I always forget. We have an Instagram account, so
yeah, check that out.
Just type in the Falcoholic, it'll come up.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm not even following the Instagram account.
You will be impressed on the slate of guests that Evan has for us over the next few weeks. I mean, we're close to the point where we're turning down guests left and right.
We're just so chock full. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to tell Tony Gonzalez no.
Yeah. He was not happy.
Sorry, Julio, no room for you.
I'm sorry, Tony. Keith Smith is coming on.
Yeah, get in line, brother. Yeah. Everybody's got to come on. This is the place to be. So, but yes, thank you, Evan. And we are going to be getting some more guests on here. We will be letting you guys know when we have those finalized. So stay tuned on that. Last but certainly not least, Will McFadden at Will McFadden on Twitter. Will, anything now that you're on the Falcoholic? Anything that you're going to be working on? Anything you want to let people know about?
Yeah, and so now any of the hot takes that I have actually changed my Twitter handle. You can find me at Words and Beer. Any of the negative comments that you guys have, just go ahead and shoot them off over there.
Yep.
Also, a question I have for you, Kevin, is the Patreon community only pictures of Adnan eating Twizzlers?
So that's
the only reason I'm going to
yeah. Right. So that's going to be our new $50 tier. And then the $100 tier is going to be the Dave Meat exclusive OnlyFans access. So we're working on that. I'll let you guys know when we're ready to roll that out. We're getting ready for
I think you should. I mean, you got to flip those.
Yeah.
I really think the Twizzler content is probably where the Gen Z is heading.
For a generous
underutilized.
tip, for a generous tip, I'll eat the Twizzlers with my shirt off as well. So
Yeah, the guns. Yeah. I remember we got those. Yeah, we're gonna have to start getting Adnan in here with the sleeveless shirts here soon. It's about to be summertime. Sun's out, guns out. So
summer is around the corner.
Yeah.
But I do it for the people.
You already ran out of content during the offseason.
Right. Yeah, that's for that May-June period after the draft. We're gonna need to break glass for shirtless Adnan. Yeah. So,
for every free agent they sign, a Twizzler down.
Slow Twizzler. Yeah.
No, I mean, excited to start writing again. For the Falcoholic, gonna try to find a lane there that's a little bit. I don't want to step on your toes, Eric, with some of the draft stuff and Kevin, what you're doing as well. But just kind of excited to jump in there, and then also continuing to kind of do some of my own stuff with the newsletter, which just go to my Twitter account and I always tweet that stuff out. So subscribe if you like it. Just gonna kind of do some of my own draft thoughts, which I'm sure will also, as it has done in these podcasts, translate over to the Falcoholic. So yeah, excited.
Not charging folks, are you?
You what?
Are you charging folks?
No, it's all free, dude.
Charge for that mock draft. Okay, I'm putting a paywall on my mock drafts now. I've seen Matt Miller. Okay, Matt Miller, I'm coming for you.
Who am I? I'm nobody. I'm a servant. I'm a steward of the people.
A man of the people. Exactly. Yeah. But shout out to
God,
Matt Miller
just
for
realized-
that paywall. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Go
just
ahead.
realized Kieran Welch is right. We just described a Falcoholic OnlyFans just a little while ago. So
We're working on that. We're workshopping that one. We'll let you know. Yeah, that's our exclusive Patreon tier. We only offer that to the real fans. So.
God, I hope I'm worth more than $50.
Yeah, we'll get you. We're workshopping that one, guys. We'll let you know when we have more information there. But yeah, guys, I'm Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter. I'm gonna have a mock draft coming out at some point. We're gonna have another final free agency video before free agency start next week, and then we're gonna be off this coming week because I will be out of town, and we're just gonna take a break there. We'll be back the week after with some great guests, and we'll be going full steam into free agency recaps and draft stuff as we get within just a month or two of the draft now. So. Very exciting time. Gonna be very busy. We'll keep you guys updated. Like I said before, check out the site, thefalcoholic.com. Follow the show on Twitter at Falcoholic Live, and follow all these great co-hosts and other folks at the Falcoholic. They do a fantastic job, and we're gonna keep bringing you that sweet Falcons content all the way through. So, guys, until next time, thank you for tuning in to the Falcoholic Live. We will see you guys in a few weeks. Have a great night, folks.